Well, Lumen Repertory Theatre kicks off its 2025 Subversive season with the provocative psychological thriller Agnes of God. Joining me to discuss it and the season ahead are Brian Neese, Artistic Director of Lumen Repertory Theatre. Welcome back, Brian.
Good to see you.
We're also joined by Josh Andrews, who is the co-director of the play Agnes of God. Welcome.
Hi, Anne. Thank you.
And Maggie Cox, who plays the role of Agnes. Welcome.
Hi, thank you.
What a neat role, first of all, Maggie. It is
Yeah.
one of those that is just, I think, singular in the world of
Yes,
theater.
absolutely. It is so challenging, but in a really invigorating way. Definitely one of the hardest things I've ever done in theater. Um, she's just such a beautiful character and goes through so much, and it's just really fun
Yeah.
to explore that character.
It is a complicated character. I mean, just for people who aren't familiar, briefly tell us what the storyline is.
Yeah, so it's about a nun, a novice nun, young nun, who is accused of infanticide,
Mhm.
and so she has to meet with a court psychiatrist to like see if she is innocent or not, and there's twists and turns there of her traumatic childhood and the psychiatrist's own experience with her sister and everything, and yeah, psychologically really gripping.
Mhm.
Yeah, and Josh, this is a story of three really strong women. There's the psychologist, as she mentioned, there's Agnes the nun, there's Mother Superior, and all three of these women are just such powerful roles. How do you approach directing and kind of helping to guide the characters of these three women?
Yeah, it's interesting. We have three characters and we have three really strong themes that kind of resonate with each one of them, which we've kind of been leaning into, which are faith, reason, and miracles. Faith on behalf of Mother Superior, reason on behalf of the psychiatrist, and miracles on behalf of Agnes herself, um, being a miracle herself, even. So, approaching it with that understanding, and we have three really, really talented, really smart actresses too, who really understand the approach and what we're doing. It's not been a great deal of work trying to get on the same page or in the same vision for that. So we're fortunate for that. I think Brian would agree.
Yeah, and Brian, I mentioned this is the Subversive
Mhm.
2025 season. Explain to us why we're characterizing it that way and what the lineup is in addition to Agnes
Sure.
of God.
We're calling it Subversive because it's one of our five sort of tenets of Lumen Repertory Theater. And this season we decided in a world where extremes seem to be the narrative, left or right, black or white, up or down, pick your two categories, your binary, to recognize there's a lot of gray and a lot of nuance and a lot of truth in between the extremes. That feels subversive. And so we've embraced that with the themes of these plays this year. We're also, after Agnes of God, we'll be doing a piece by David Mamet, American Buffalo, looking at loyalty, misconceptions of manhood, things of that nature. After a very strong female show, this will be a strong male show. And then we're debuting Michael Jacobs' brand new play, Harlan and Brona Jump Out the Window. And you give away the plot in the title, and then find out what happens economically and sort of spiritually to some degree with these very well-to-do people.
How do you make this character and this show relevant today? I mean, this is a classic in some ways. It was produced back in the 80s on Broadway. There was a
Yeah.
film starring Jane Fonda and Meg
Mhm.
Tilly in the early 80s as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
So is it a reinvention of some kind, or are you just sort of staying true to the
Yeah, I'm very familiar with the movie and the play. I loved the movie, and my mom did too, so I've watched it a couple times. And I think it's just really important for me to try to come at this from a new angle, from my own life experience, and approach it differently than other actresses have before. Try to find nuances and new things we haven't realized about these characters before.
And
yeah?
we've really embraced mystery.
Mhm.
The audience has to do work with our plays. We
Sorry.
don't just hand all of the answers to you, but this play in particular, we expect the audience to come to their own conclusions.
Yeah, and I'll just add that I think on that we have the benefit too that we're dealing with age-old questions,
Mhm.
not new questions. I mean, these are things that people still disagree about and have disagreed about since the beginning of time. Faith versus reason, the miraculous versus the mundane, I think is one that Brian has said that I really like. Things like that. I mean, nobody agrees on these things, and that's why it's interesting.
And
Mhm.
are you comfortable as a co-director of this leaving that open and not trying to direct what people's conclusion is.
Well, I think it's important to have a point of view, but it's not important to spoon feed it to people, right? It's like Brian said. So it's important to know what you believe, I think, about these things, but to leave room for people to have their own impressions and own feelings. And that's what makes it art, I think, is that you're making a statement, but it's for other people to interpret.
Yeah, our job as artists is not to tell people what to think.
Right.
It's to tell the truth.
Yeah.
And then let people decide.
Yeah. Well, Agnes of God, it opens this weekend, March 14th. It runs through the 29th of March. Performance is at the historic San Marco Church.
Mhm.
And you can get more information at lumenrep.org. Brian, Josh, Maggie, thanks so much. Appreciate
Okay.
it.
Thanks, Ann.
Thank you
Thanks
so much.
always.
Break a leg.